What's up, everyone? Welcome to Bill Bronze and Dragons. I'm your host, Bill Brun Bafflestone. So today we're having another episode of my deep dive series. Today looking at the Warlock invocation, Cloak of Flies. The reason that I wanted to do this deep dive is because I am a huge fan of Cloak of Flies. I put the description on the screen, as well as my pretty wicked reskinning of it, I think, as a lava cloak that I'm using on my own character. Just as an example of how you can reskin stuff in a cool way that reflects the role-playing stuff that you want to portray. And I actually, in my last video, a tactical review of my level 7 Mobron Dowlock Stone build, said that I was going to drop Cloak of Flies, and I have since reconsidered. I decided to drop investment of the Chainmaster instead of Cloak of Flies, and I'm keeping my Lava Cloak. I feel like it's just too iconic to my character. At this point, it's just like part of who he is in a role-playing perspective, and I just didn't feel comfortable dropping it. But also, it's really good. So let's take a look at this thing. It not only gives you this really great wicked visual, it gives you the advantage on intimidation checks, which can be really amazing in Dungeons and Dragons. Not only in basic interaction scenarios, but also even in combat, because if you're in combat, it's intimidation that you're trying to use to get people to surrender, typically, or what have you. And persuasion and deception are the ones that you use in the interaction phase. So, as I've mentioned in my various battle reports, I've had instances where a great intimidation roll has saved my butt, and so having Cloak of Flies to really put some role-playing oomph into it and advantage on those rolls can be really good. I'd also like to point out that it's something that you can just turn on with a bonus action, and then it's on until you're either incapacitated or use a bonus action to dismiss it. So you can short rest trick it, turn it on, short rest. Now you've got it on, and you can be, you have an instance of being able to use it again. And it confers that damage aura, 3 to 5 points of poison damage to everything standing within 5 feet of you. Can be really cool, and role-playing has role-playing synergy as well. The last thing I want to mention about Cloak of Flies is that it actually has a very interesting interaction with the spell Infernal Calling. And I keep meaning to do an Infernal Calling deep dive as a companion piece to my Summon Greater Demon deep dive, but the TLDR of it is that Infernal Calling is terrible, and I don't recommend it, because you can't get good demons. You can really only get, especially as a warlock, the bearded devil, which sucks, the barbed devil, which is okay, but it's hard to control, and the white Abishai, which is actually pretty good. I do like the white Abishai. But the thing is about that spell versus Summon Greater Demon is that Summon Greater Demon is a charisma save at the end of every round. So magic resistance applies to it, and since it's pretty hard to get your save DC up really high in 5th edition, they're going to break control eventually. You can't keep them for the full hour. You need to get your save DC up to 20 or 21 in order to make that happen in 5th edition, and that's really hard. Whereas Infernal Calling, you simply give them one command, and it lasts for the entirety of the task. Right? If you say kill my enemies, you only make that roll once until your enemies are dead. And that roll is a charisma, intimidation, persuasion, or deception check versus their wisdom insight roll. And so if you have Cloak of Flies, you can get advantage on that intimidation roll, and you can even stack it further by having proficiency or even expertise in intimidation through dipping or through a skill expert feat. And now, for example, you could be rolling at advantage an intimidation check at like plus 12 or something versus a demon that's doing it at plus 0 or plus 1. That's not a roll that they're going to win very often. And then you have pretty solid control, better control than you can get with Summon Greater Demon. I still don't recommend Infernal Calling because, like I said, the devils that you can get are pretty bad. But, Cloak of Flies does have that nice interaction that does make it a little tempting. I am considering adding Infernal Calling just for the white Abishai. because it has those great immunities to cold and fire, which means that it's way better in certain scenarios. And one of the things I like about summoning, especially if you're doing it non-druid style, by which I mean one big summon as opposed to a bunch of little ones, you want to have a nice array of options so that when you're fighting a particular monster, you've got the right one. You'd be like, oh, this guy does cold damage. I'm going to throw out that White Abishai. It's got cold immunity. Right? Oh, this one's fire. Well, I'll throw out this other one that's got fire immunity. Right? Oh, this one is, got psychic damage. Well, I'll throw out a Summon a Barret that has psychic immunity. Right? Things like that. So it's an interesting interaction. It does make Cloak of Flies even better. But even if you don't have Infernal Calling, I do recommend Cloak of Flies. It's not one that I think is commonly picked amongst Warlocks because they get so tantalized by Repelling Blast and Agonizing Blast and Eldritch Mind and all of those that people love. But if you can make room for it, I think Cloak of Flies is a really wicked good invocation that you should strongly consider. In any case, let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Bill Bronze and Dragons. I'm your host, Bill Bron Battlestone. See you next time.